big time stuff.
You good, Franny?
Yep.
All right, Coach, you want to start us off?
I do. What an amazing day for our football program. You know, I think obviously the timetables in college football will continue to navigate and change, and this is the earliest signing date any of us has had. But in our third complete class, like, this is something that's really, really special to us. These 23 guys represent Washington State, represent themselves, their families, and you know, as you kind of look across this deal, as I kind of go through these guys, one of the biggest things that stands out to me is a 204-80 record combined this year in high school. Right, these guys are winners. 21 of these guys are in the playoffs. 15 of these guys are team captains, and I believe in winning. Right, there's a culture to it. There's an understanding to it, and a bunch of them are from some of the best high schools really across the country, totaling 9 different states. 9 of these guys will be mid-year enrollees. That's a record for us, so immediate impact, and those type of opportunities are there. We stayed in our core of 14 West Coast guys between Washington, Oregon, and California, and we expanded to the Midwest, right? So we had to go find some beef and just kind of excited about those guys. So briefly, real quick, before I take questions, I mean, you can see some of the priorities. Defensive backs is a must. In today's college football landscape, you got to be run and cover with speed, right? So obviously, you know, Ishmael, Aiden, David, Galen, Kyle, and Jamari, like, all those guys have tremendous amounts of versatility, right? Ish out the gate, exceptional speed, can play corner, can slide in and be a nickel guy. Aiden Napke is just a ball-playing Jesse. He's one of these guys, and I joked with him last night, if he could catch, he'd have like 10 picks, right? So he's out there making a bunch of plays. David Kuku, obviously local, got to see David compete at the Pacific Northwest showcases, and he's a hell of a competitor right from the Tri-Cities. Galen was one we got on, you know, really as a senior, and in my mind, it's like Daniel Isom, right? Ice played corner, he played nickel, he played free, he played strong. It's a really unique blend of skill set. He was a 4.4 laser 40 out of North Crowley, which is one of the best high schools down in Texas. They're still playing. Kyle Peterson will be a big, strong safety, a big physical guy to come in here. And Jamari Smith, another mid-year enrollee, to ensure that free safety position. So versatility's at a premium. Linebackers, I love these two guys. You know, Jovan out of Morgan Park in Illinois. AJ Tuatelli out of Vegas. He's a state champion. Some of these numbers, you got to wonder who's tallying these, but AJ had 167 tackles in high school, right? He had 37 TFLs. Right, so either he's paying the stats guy or this stuff is amazing, right? It's awesome to watch. Jovan is just a utility knife. He played a little bit of safety, but he'll be kind of more down in the box in our scheme. Josiah Pratt, Elijah Tucker, defensive tackles. I think Cougs will know, like they now know Ansel and Khalil, very similar to these two guys in a couple years. Josiah's the power, and Elijah is just lightning in a bottle. Lucan, okay. Amatu Anai, I nailed that. Okay, there ain't no question about that. And Luke Webb, 2 different styles of pass rushers. Lucan had 10 sacks. He's power. He's going to be big time. He's almost ready to go right now when we get him in the summer. And Luke Webb, you know, started off down at Orange Lou, finished in Camas in Washington as an elite style just player, a little bit like Bobby Terrell. Very imperative of us to replenish this offensive line. We got 7 seniors on his roster next year. I think that's a little bit of a unique experience. So the one part that was the hardest to find probably in the country this year, if you asked every coach, was offensive line, right? So that led us to Liam Vaughn in Michigan. That led us to Turner Bertrand in the middle of Nebraska and Kearney. Obviously, Aiden Martin and Arion Williams are more in our staple landscape, but 2 big body tackles. But we also have to replace the Brock Dews, the Calaneys, and all these guys here in a couple of years. So to get these inside guys, I think is really important. Wide receiver, the focus was length and size and outside pass catching ability. You know, we signed, you know, the compact quick guys last year in Cobbs and Barnes and Freeman. So really all 3 of these guys will be mid-year enrollees with Sean Embry. Jack Foley had 17 touchdowns in Oregon, was just incredible. Nolan Westbrook is an extremely strong pass catcher. Combine that with a reloaded tight end in Cash Landau and Peyton Reed. Cash has over 29 career touchdowns. Okay, that's a phenomenal career. And if you asked Peyton Reed 2 years ago, he would say he's a basketball player. Right? That's exactly what I love in a tight end. 6'6 plus, long, lengthy guy that's just getting into the game. That's beyond excited to have him on our roster. And then these final 2, Jamar Searcy, when we saw Jamar in the spring and work out, you know, we're the first ones to offer him. You know, and that vision was just exceptional from the top down to Coach Atawai, to Coach Slager, our GM. And this was a heck of a battle, hanging on to Jamar this whole way, but he's going to be a special one. And then Steele Pizzella, you know, a guy that can, you know, throw for 2,000 yards, rush for 1,000 yards. We love dual threat quarterbacks, right? And I think that'll be our target as we continue to go through these classes of that's, you know, who and what we want in that position. And I think John shows that to the highest fashion this year. And, you know, I don't like comparing anyone to John, but Steele's been very impressive, and he's a 10.6 100-meter kid as a junior. So he'd be a 10.4 guy if he came back this year, another mid-year guy. So an impressive class of the right people. Last thing is just three really goals as we go through this. First one is family over flash. They got to embrace who we are. They got to understand why they're here, and they have to love it. The second one is production, right, over projection. Right? We love guys that love to produce, right? Because a lot of times you can project these guys all you want, and you're trying to see something that's not there. We love guys that love to produce. And the last one is being dynamic over just taking dimensions, right? There are some things that we do dimensionally. We don't like fit anyone in a box, right? We want guys that are super dynamic at every position, even offensive line, because we feel like, you know, that athletic production is going to take us to where we want to go. So excited about this 2025 class, and with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Coach, first want to ask about the offensive line. You know, I think on paper you can probably project a little bit of where those guys will go. You know, Liam and Arion seem more the guard body, whereas Turner and Aiden outside. But just from the individual standpoint, what about each individual guy kind of sticks out to you?
Well, Arion's playing in the best league in the country, in the Trinity League. And he's playing tackle, right? He'll be a center for us. Super athletic, 33.5-inch arms, like that's a long arm, okay? So it isn't just about the height, it's about creating that contact in there, and his athleticism is off the charts. So the competitive nature of what you see on tape is elite. Liam Vaughn is just nasty, right? They record him for 108 pancakes. That's a heck of a stat, right? So he's going to be here at the mid-year to give us a bunch of, you know, obviously quick start on him being a guard. Aiden Martin, tackle, easy. You know, I just think he's one that, as you see throughout our process, we kind of got on him midway through his senior year because he just, you know, just kept getting better and better, right? And then obviously Turner will be that project left tackle. So just excited about getting that blend, and we've, you know, for 3 years, Jamie, we've been hammering this offensive line unit. It's the heartbeat of the team. We got it where we want. Now we need to replenish, and I think these guys will be the staple of this football team going forward.
When they put the pads on in January, will you be able to tell Liam Vaughn and Brock Dew apart?
It's a great comp. Yes, because Brock will still talk like an engineer, and Liam will talk like an O-lineman that just loves ball. So it's one of those things where these guys are just very, very similar. I think that's a great comp right now, just as far as what Liam's capable of doing.
Before you recruited Turner, had you been to Kearney, Nebraska before?
Have you ever had Runza?
Yes, I have actually. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So it's a famous thing out there. And I was coaching at Wyoming. We would drive home, right? So we would go right through the heart of Nebraska. I've been to Kearney many times. D2 place. I was a D2 guy at one time. Very familiar with it. But yeah, I believe I stopped in the Runza at Kearney, Nebraska at one point. So I mean it. You search far and wide, and it's amazing the stories that it takes to kind of find these things. But our scouting team is elite, and just really excited about them.
Yeah, I mean the point was that, like, you know, you find guys in Nebraska, and I think Liam was your first Michigan recruit since like 18.
Yeah.
What does it take to like find guys like that come from so far away?
Well, I think information now, I mean, just like anything else we do in life, is there's information overload everywhere. So we get all the huddle films, and, you know, we just start looking first, you know, flight-wise, you know, what makes sense. You know, obviously Minneapolis, Chicago, those type of areas, and what works for us. And then we kind of expand out from there. And it's not just looking at lists, it's looking at fit, it's finding guys that can really work, who's rising as a senior. Like, I love that piece of it. So we find guys that don't just put together really fancy highlights. We make cut-ups of all these kids. You know, Coach Schleicher does a good job of good, bad, and ugly, and we kind of sort through what these guys are. And biggest thing we're looking for, Greg, is consistency over convenience. To me, highlights are convenient. Like, you're making a play because that's that play. Consistency is game tape. You know, what you do when the ball's on the other side, what you do when you're supposed to be a backside seal, what do you do as a wide receiver when you're supposed to crack the safety, right? That is consistency, right? And I think only game tape shows that.
With Steele, one, were you ever worried about him flipping because of Ben leaving? And then two, with you guys emphasizing a dual threat quarterback, with John now and Steele coming up, that's a pretty big reversal from, quarterbacks here for a long time. Like, what kind of change does that kind of signal in terms of like kind of what you're looking for in the quarterback spot here?
Well, I think it just signals the times of college football changing. I don't think anyone was asking a quarterback to rush for 1,000 yards when Drew Bledsoe was here, right? And I think it was a style. No knock to Drew. If he could have done that, that would have been awesome, right? But I just think from a defensive lens, I just think it's so tough. You always got to worry about the +1 fit, the scrambling ability. John's made that pretty evident right now. But you still got to be able to really throw the ball. And I think when you watch Steele's tape, and we saw him live, I saw him live at camp, Ben saw him live in a workout. Like, there's a lot of things that go through this evaluation process. But more than anything at that quarterback position, like, how mentally sturdy are you? And I think Steele is sharp as they come. And, he battled against some of the best in the country, and I think that's just a new age kid. I think they want to be dual threat, right? We want to be a dual threat offense. I don't like tags for offenses per se, but in this style of our spread attack, like, you got to be able to have a quarterback that can create, because it helps the play caller. How many times does John just make something happen? It makes it seem like it's a great play call. No, that's just John doing his thing.
You talked a lot about, obviously, your excitement for these guys and also your program values. What is just kind of, I guess for lack of a better phrase, the common thread that you saw in all of these guys and why they're a good fit for this program?
They trust us. They trust us. And I think that's why this morning was the cleanest it's ever been. Everybody in the first 10 minutes of their first hour, no worries, talking to families. I mean, just two things we recruit on. One, the player needs to love it here. Not the families, not the brothers, not the coaches, the player, right? The guys that thrive here in Pullman, Washington, they love every facet of our program. Two, the families need to trust us. I mean that, right? I get an opportunity to develop them through the game of football. They're not men yet when they come here at 17, 18 years old. The families are really proud of who they've raised, and we do our homework. So they know that they can trust what we're saying and what we're doing, and that's really important to me.
Is there anyone on this list that you could see kind of making an immediate impact?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for these guys, like 9 guys are giving them an opportunity to come in and do something really special. The 2 free safeties are going to be thrown into the mix. Aiden Nabke and Jamari Smith, like, right out the gate. We need to replace that production, and those guys need to be able to come in here and do it. Obviously Liam will take some time. Josiah Pratt, he's going to give himself an early opportunity. Lucan, I believe is physically ready. But I'm really proud that our program now is at a position where, in my mind, you don't necessarily just need that. Carlos got an early opportunity because we needed that. We threw Leighton Smithson out there early because we needed that, right? There were some things where, like, okay, we're going to do this the right way, but some of these young guys are going to have to go through this process that's pretty hard early in their career. I think we're very stable as a program, that we don't project all that out. And, like I said, big, tall, wide receivers like this take some time. Jack Foley, I think, is a little more ready-made. He's 17 touchdowns. He's been competitive, so he'll be an early enrollee as well. So I'm just excited about these guys. And obviously Jamar Searcy, running back, is a position that you can come in and let your talents take over.
Coach, for you personally, from sort of your first class or when you were first even recruiting, even before as a head coach, how do you feel like up till now you personally have improved as a recruiter in whichever areas that may be?
Well, I think you know how to narrow your focus on what works. I don't think we've changed our core values. We haven't changed the standard. I think we have a process that we've refined over and over and over, and that process is tedious. right? To find the right player, not just the most talented player, is everything. And to get your whole staff on board, right? This isn't just me, it starts with scouting, right? Obviously, we talked about Rob a bunch, but Joel, Diaz Romero, Taylor Long in our recruiting process and all the visits that come through with that. Obviously our creative team is amazing. Our faculty, our community, right? The business owners that we go to, like everyone recruits these guys, so it's refining that process, over and over and over. And I just have really found out, like, you need to tell them the truth. Be honest with them, right? Be consistent with families. They really appreciate it. And I think there's something that you get here and you get in the environment and you understand, like, this is a really great place for young people. Limited distractions, yet all the resources they need to get them where they ultimately want to go professionally and personally.
You sort of mentioned how last year at receiver you went for more quick and this year more size. Just all positions in general, do you feel like you have any specific molds in any position you're specifically looking for, or do you feel like it's more of just kind of a year-by-year basis?
The first mold is break the mold. You know what I'm saying? You just never just have too much of one guy. I think that's been very apparent as you kind of even go through these lists. These DBs are all multi-dimensional, but they're never the same guy, right? So I think it's a blended set of skills that I think is required at all different types of positions. But like I said, the one common thread you will find, these guys love football. These guys are not coming here for money. Or these guys are not coming here for notoriety. They love ball. And you just see this group chat just buzzing because I think they already got a really special relationship. And I think when you do that and you keep the main thing, which is very difficult to do today, I think you can get the right players. So I think that's what this collection of 23 guys really represent this year.
When I look at the defensive back room, I think I counted 4 of your DBs coming here in January. And you've kind of talked about some of them, but what do they each bring, and how important is it that 4 of them are going to be here in January?
Yeah, and I think the important part, you're looking at Chaminade, California, major player. Cherry Creek, Aiden's playing for a championship. Kamiakin, North Crowley is still playing. Shadow Creek's as big as it gets in Texas. Oaks Christian, you're talking about major schools here, major competition. Ish right out the gate, it has the speed and athleticism to overcome schematic stuff that you got to learn. Like I said, Aiden is a ball playing fool no matter what we ask him to do. Just excited about his opportunity to come in here. Kyle's very physical, loves ball. Every time I talk to Kyle, he's either working out or studying film. And Jamari, like I said, played corner, and we love a lot of corners. That doesn't mean he's going to be a corner. Probably more of that free safety inside cover guys. So versatility is a premium, but there's a steep learning curve. This is a complicated game played at warp speed. But these guys will give them a chance to come in early and kind of go through that process with the team. And I'm a big believer in 10 years, everyone will come in January, right? Because I think we need to get to an NFL model, right? We need to stop being tied to an academic calendar. That's what causes all these problems, right? I look at the NFL, they don't finish the regular season, then have the draft before the playoffs, then do unlimited free agency before the playoffs, right? Because they would say, oh, that's chaos, right? They don't have coaching turnover before the playoffs, but we do because we're tied to an academic calendar, right? So we got to figure this out, and I think one thing that really helps these kids is coming in January. Right, they really integrate into the team. They get the learning of the spring practice. They get summer culture building with the guys. I mean, I think it's great. Now you got to be really emotionally ready for that as a 17 or 18-year-old kid. So I went on my timeline tangent there a little bit. I had to get that in. But at the end of the day, like these guys that come here at the mid-year, you do get a leg up on your developmental process.
And you said that the common thread between all these guys is they trust you. Especially this week with the staff changes, what conversations have you had with them, and how bought in are they to the program overall?
They signed today. I think that's a big deal, right? The best part is the conversations weren't that hard. Like that's the best part. That doesn't mean we didn't have conversation. Very truthful, Like I said, when you tell people the truth, and you're honest and open, I think that's important. And I do think it's hard to say, but the stats say the average college football player will have 2 to 3 position coaches. Those are the stats. Like, those are the facts. But I think our stability here at head coach is very important. Our stability at strength and conditioning coordinator and Ben Anacchione is very important. Like, these are major relationships for these guys. So we created a vision for them. That vision isn't changing. I've assured all of them we're not going to 22 personnel I formation, okay? Right? And we're going to do the same things that we've done a long time. And I'm going to put the best in front of them. Every opportunity as a staff change is an opportunity for our program to get better. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I always have, right? And that's not a knock to anybody. It's just a viewpoint I have as a competitor, right? There's a lot of great coaches at a lot of levels, and we're going to put the best in front of these kids.
Obviously, mentioned this is the first time we've talked to you since it was announced that both coordinators are leaving. Just kind of, I guess, what are your next steps? Where do you guys go from here, kind of thing?
I'm going to address a lot of that on Friday. I want to keep the main thing in this class here. We'll have some media availability on Friday that I'll kind of handle all that stuff with. But I'll just repeat, we're going to put the best in front of our guys, right? And I am dedicated to it. And that's a slow process in my book. Always has been, always will be. Finding the right versus the fastest, the quickest. This was a huge priority the last 2 days. Haven't been a lot of sleep since Saturday. The next main priority is player retention, right? Because I can call the plays if John's here. I'm not going to do that, right? But it's about the players, right? It's about the players. It's a player's game. So retaining those guys is important. And, like I said, we'll put the best in front of our players. I promise them that.
How do you go about finding people to fill those roles that really fit with, what these players embody and kind of what you're building here with this new class?
Yeah, that's staying true to our core values as a program. It's the same thing in coaches as it is in all these guys, right? It is about fit. It is about fit, and not everyone's wife can live in Pullman, Washington. Let's start there, right? As an eliminator, right? Just like all these guys, can everyone be here? Like, you got to love and embrace who we are. I mean that, and that's a real thing, right? So it's about finding people that really embrace Washington State and Pullman, Washington.
You've mentioned a few times the guys who are enrolling early. Can you just real quick go down the guys that are going to be here in January?
So 9 guys: Ishmael Gibbs, Aiden Napke, Kyle Peterson, Jovan Clark, Josiah Pratt, Liam Vaughn, Jack Foley, and Steele Pizzella.
And I know with the shift to the 105, it opened the door for using some partial scholarships, kind of getting creative that way. Was that something you guys utilized in this class?
It's a concept we utilize, yes. It's not approved yet, right? So there's some trickiness to that. But it is something that we will utilize going forward, and the big thing is, in my mind, to offset, all the other things that are happening in college football, we need to be able to have depth at every position, right? And I grew up from Division III on up. I know how all this stuff works and the money and maximizing and partials and the developmental process that takes. So we're going to squeeze every dime, that the administration gives us to put together the most scholarships possible, because I think that is the biggest sustainable model here at Washington State.
I want to ask specifically about AJ Tutele, and I actually think you shorted him on the stats.
Okay.
He had 193 tackles. The championship game, he had 26.
Okay.
Anyways,
Isn't that incredible?
It's pretty amazing. But just watching the tape on him, it seems that he's the type of linebacker that can do just a little bit of everything. He's boundary.
Yeah.
He can rush. When watching kind of the way he defends his screens, it reminded me a lot of kind of a KJ Wright for the Seahawks. When you see a guy like that can do that many different things at linebacker, how much does that just kind of jump off the tape and say, this is the type of guy that we take and we figure out exactly what we want his role to be later?
100%. Like you hit the nail on the head. Like, it's funny because every high schooler in the country has huddle, right? And we have access to all that. His high school had some other off-brand huddle, right? So I'm like, this is awesome. Not everybody's seeing this kid, right? It's like the old days of the old VHS. Oh, I got the VHS. No one else does. But as we started looking at him and seeing it, it was just he's too dynamic. He's too instinctual. He's too not just see ball, get ball, but like explosive finisher, and like they use him in a lot of cool and different ways. To your point, so the blended skill set is just so unique, and I think that's one thing in my mind, schematically, is like we got to be more multiple, and we got to make sure that we're attacking people. And I think AJ just really embodies that. An amazing family. I mean, I can't wait. The one thing I do miss, guys, is like they took away December official visits, right? So in January, or home visits. So in January, I can't wait to get out there and really spend some time with these families.
I do have to shout out that other site's called Quick Cut. Just got to make sure I get the name in there. A friend of mine works for him, anyways.
There you go.
What was the process of flipping Jack to WSU, and to see what was that all about?
Interesting recruiting process. We're one of the first to offer them. Just kind of loved them off of the spring tape and workout, and had a, not a lot of guys get injured in 7-on-7, but had a pretty serious 7-on-7 injury that we had to do some medical workup on. Had to see him come back. He did. Had a heck of a season. And I think young people, I mean, your first big official visit when he went to the other school, like, it was impressive. But I think finally when he got back, after a couple weeks of, just kind of, hey, man, you can do that right here. Your parents can see you play. Like, he just kind of came around to, like, you know what, I need to do this for myself. I need to check out Washington State. You guys have been there from the beginning, and I just think he saw the right fit as it went. So those conversations aren't easy. I mean, we probably have 4 or 5 flipped guys in here because we do things a little later. We do. I really value senior tape, and I think I hate guys that flatline. You're too young to flatline your senior year, right? So if you stay the same as a junior, what are you going to do from 18 to 23, right? So I think we're a little slower in that process, and that leads to, some people being a little frustrated how slow we go, but we got a real process we stick to.
How much sleep did you get last night?
I was on the phone at 10:30 just making sure we're all good here in different capacities. So I woke up with an energy. I know that. So that alarm went off early. I did tell Liam, because he's East Coast time, I said, hey, I don't know, like 4 a.m. do we need to talk out here? But I think we got it at 5 a.m. We were good. So, I also learned that Detroit is in the Eastern time zone. I did not know that. I would have guessed the Central.
That's good. Nothing else?
All right, guys. We'll see you this weekend for practice. Go Cougs!
Let's go.